Okay, folks, as I was mentioning, 1861 rolls around, the Confederacy comes and captures this fort and Fort Pulaski, protecting the mouth of the Savannah River. And this was cause for a huge celebration here in Savannah. People were overjoyed these forts had been captured. Well, the celebrations didn't last for long because the realities of war soon started to set in. One of the big realities they faced in Savannah, the Union naval blockade that started pretty early on in the war. But then another major event occurred here. And this other event I want to tell you briefly about would end up being a turning point in military history. What I'm talking about here is the capture of Fort Pulaski, protecting the mouth of the Savannah River. Essentially, the Union moved into Tybee Island, and they brought with them a whole bunch of these newer, more powerful rifle-style cannons, able to shoot Fort Pulaski from Tybee, but nobody inside the fort could do anything about it with all the big smoothbore guns they had on the walls of the fort. Simply could not reach back to those Union positions. So the Union was able to fire upon Fort Pulaski for 30 hours straight with impunity, eventually causing the guys inside that fort to surrender it. And this was cause for a lot of panic here in Savannah. People were understandably very upset, thinking now the Union was just going to roll up this river here and capture the city. Well, if they would have tried this, they would have run into some really incredibly stiff resistance, because where we are right now was one of the most heavily fortified sections of water anywhere in this country throughout the entirety of the Civil War. Part of the reason had to do with Fort Jackson right here, but on every single piece of land surrounding us where we are right now, other gun batteries were set up containing more than 80 heavy caliber guns, all trained right here on this stretch of the river. And then to top all of this off, the scariest, most formidable vessel, or most formidable weapon they had here at the time, was a vessel. It was the CSS Georgia, a giant ironclad gunboat anchored right about where we are now, facing broadside down the river. And I'll get back to the CSS Georgia in just a moment. Point being is that this was incredibly well defended right here. The Union would have had a very hard time trying to fight their way past all these defenses. But if you know anything at all about Savannah's Civil War history, probably the biggest thing you do know is that that's not how the city ended up being captured by the Union, right? Nobody ever had to fight their way past these defenses, because of course you had good old General William Tecumseh Sherman and 62,000 of his closest friends who decided to march their happy way through Georgia and show up on Savannah's doorstep on December 10th, 1864. Of course, this was the end of the war now for Savannah and for Jackson here. Then this fort was abandoned. In 1877, they deemed it obsolete, because guess what? That battle of Fort Pulaski that I mentioned a little while ago, everybody realized that was a turning point in military history, because they realized during that battle that these newer, more powerful rifle guns could destroy these brick forts a whole lot easier and from a whole lot further away than you could with any smoothbore gun of the past. And then this fort wasn't revamped, it wasn't restored until 1975. That was when the Coastal Heritage Society got permission from the state of Georgia to restore this fort here. They've done a really amazing job, and I highly recommend a tour out here if you get a chance. In fact, I can save you a bit of money too. Hold on to your ticket stub that you used today to get on our boat, and that'll get you 10% off admission at their little Fort Jackson. Highly recommended.